Okay, it's time for the yearly Kings Need to Make a Trade video. I know I discussed them a bit in that Ben Simmons video from a couple days ago, but for the sake of this vid, I think we can leave the Ben Simmons stuff to the side. I mean, all that still applies, but there are other things to talk about with this team. So they're bad. They've lost 5 in a row. DeAaron Fox hasn't played in a couple of them. Sure, fine. They're bad regardless of whether he's in or out. There was a play in the second quarter against the Hawks where Davion Mitchell had Rashawn Holmes rolling to the rim, and he took a bad, deep two-pointer, and then the Hawks get the rebound, and then DeAndre Hunter gets himself a pretty easy transition opportunity because the Kings just didn't really get back like that. And it was just a moment of like, oh yeah, that's just kind of what's going on right now. Against the Bucks with no Giannis, Middleton was torching them, and it was mainly just single coverage the whole game. They finally bring two, and suddenly George Hill's open under the rim, or they bring a double, but it's late. Like, it's just, it is what it is right now, you know? There was a report that said they don't want to be sellers. They don't want to punt on the season, which I think is not the right mentality. I do not think this front office should have the intention of trying to claw their way into the play-in tournament so they can just lose in the first game. Unless the return is pretty nuts. I mean, if you can get Ben Simmons, then all right, you definitely think about it. I've also seen John Collins talked about, but I just don't think the Hawks are going to move Collins. Anyway, who are you trading? Well, I mean, the two obvious names you're looking at are Harrison Barnes and Buddy Hield, right? I think this would be the best time to move Barnes because he's got 2 years left on the contract. We saw with the Magic when they traded Gordon, he had 2 years left. They got a first. With Fournier, he had 1 year left. They got a couple seconds. Barnes and Gordon are better than Fournier, but even so, I do think the contract length matters there. The other thing, too, with Barnes and Buddy Hield, they're actually the same age. I know it doesn't feel like they are, but they're both 29 years old. Do you really want two expensive 30-year-olds on your team if you're Sacramento? Because I don't. A first-round pick and a young player would be an amazing return for either one of those guys. It is not a guarantee you're going to get that. The one thing with that, though, is if you're looking at the better teams in the league, a lot of them are pretty dried up when it comes to future picks. Or it's a team like the Lakers or the Mavs where they have picks, but they're in the distant future. Now, you do have some of the better teams like the Warriors or the Grizzlies or the Cavs, but, you know, Grizzlies and Cavs, those are two pretty still young teams. I don't think they're going to want to move a whole lot of stuff for a 29, soon-to-be 30-year-old. In the case of the Warriors, they would have to move Kuminga, Moody, or Wiseman to make the money work, and I doubt they're going to want to do that. I don't think this is going to happen, but I guess this could be the template of the type of move I'm talking about, where you look at Phoenix, and there's no reason for the Suns to want to shake things up. But if they wanted to improve a power forward and they wanted Harrison Barnes, what if you asked for Jalen Smith in that move? And plus the money to make it work, of course. I don't think that's going to happen, but something like that. Although, quick side note, it is kind of tough to imagine what will happen with Jalen Smith because, of course, he's going to be an unrestricted free agent because the Suns declined his option. There was a rumor about the Jazz wanting Barnes, but it's a similar thing. Like, all the top money guys on the Jazz are older dudes, so I don't know if the Kings would want to mess with that. There's obviously going to be a move somewhere if you dig deep enough, but I can't find it off the top of my head right now. I've seen a bit of conversation for Buddy Hield on Dallas. I think getting Josh Green back in that sort of a trade, okay, that's an idea. I would like to think you could do better, but what do I know? There is also the DeAaron Fox conversation, and I mean, I guess it's fair to see what you can get for him, but I would be very stingy with moving Fox. I mean, I saw a rumor where it was like, there was conversation about Fox for Sabonis, and I get it. You can be like, well, Tyrese Halliburton, Sabonis screens and all that stuff. You can go to, well, Halliburton and Fox can never work together. Personally, I think Fox and Halliburton can play together because they're both good at basketball. Call me crazy. I acknowledge DeAaron Fox's faults, mainly his three-pointer. I would still rather have him than Sabonis. I don't think we should forget the 2019 season where we all thought the Kings were going to suck, and I was excited for it because the Celtics had their pick. They won 39 games, a lot of it off the back of just running like crazy in transition every opportunity they got, and suddenly the conversation was, wait a minute, is DeAaron Fox propelling himself to some level in the NBA or whatever, and then the last couple years it hasn't been as good, but to me, that guy's still there. I also think, Dave Yeager being an actual good coach played a part in that. And, the Kings did what the Kings did, and they got rid of a good coach. So if I have to pick a side on Fox, I will pick the side of do not trade him. But that being said, it only takes one team to give you an insane offer. As for Marvin Bagley, I would also see what I can get for him. Whether it's going to be that much, I don't know. My guess is that we're probably going to restricted free agency with him, and you definitely need to have a line that you're not going to go past with his salary. But yeah, I mean, really, this just comes down to they need to shift the focus from clawing to get into the playoffs, like right at the bottom, to just be bad. It's okay to be bad when it's intentional and you go all in and you load up on picks and you pick out the guys on your team that you want to hang on to, and then you hopefully nail the draft pick. That's the other part of this. It doesn't matter what you do if you don't actually nail the picks, so hopefully they get that part right. But to me, that's the only avenue they can go in. And this recent quote that may or may not actually be real from a source saying that they don't want to punt on the season, I just don't agree with that mentality. As of right now, they have the 6th best odds for the lottery, which means there is about a 50% chance that they will get the 7th or the 8th pick, which is just not that fun. If you're going to be bad, you want to be all the way bad, right? Which means if there's 20 games left in the season or whatever, just shut down DeAaron Fox, assuming that he's okay with it. Play your young dudes, whoever you might have at that time, as much as possible. It's going to be difficult to get into the top 3 odds this year because the Magic, the Pistons, and the Rockets seem to have that pretty much on lock, and OKC is knocking on the door as well. So hopefully you can at least pass Indiana to increase your odds a little bit more of getting a higher pick. That's the hope, man.